last week, we did see the listing of Transcorp Power on Monday, exactly Monday of last week. We did see the listing of that. And at the end of the week, we did see Transcorp emerge as the best performing stock with the most gains of about 835 billion naira, and so much more to discuss, especially with regards to the listing of Transcorp Power. But my guest who is now with me, he is a non-executive director of Transcorp Power Plc, Risqua Muhammed. Thank you for joining us on Business Daily this morning.
Thank you very much, Yamato.
I mean, such major gains from Transcorp Power from last week, and from my own perspective, this underscores the demand for the shares of Transcorp Power. But you are a non-executive director. How would you, or what was your reaction to the gains that Transcorp Power, generated last week?
Well, I was quite impressed by the performance of the company in the market, even though I wasn't surprised, because it is a very good company. It's well run, and it's contributing tremendously to the power demand in Nigeria. So I wasn't surprised, but I was also very impressed by the performance.
Indeed. You've talked about the power demands. That's a major conversation that has been on the lips of most Nigerians, especially this year. There has been a lot going on within the power sector. But let's hear from you. What encouraged you to invest in Transcorp Power?
Well, as you know, we've always had a power deficit issue in Nigeria, for the last, couple of decades. And obviously, anybody, knows that for the country to progress and make any meaningful development, you need to have power, so that, you can be able to power, the small businesses, the schools, the hospitals, and, from the very early stages, I had decided that I wanted to be part of this space. And we got together with like minds, and then decided to invest. And we acquired Transcorp, Ughelli Power Plant from the federal government in 2012. When we bought it, it was performing at 160 megawatts, about that. But today it's performing at over 700 megawatts. So we've spent a lot of time, investing, refurbishing, and we believe that that is what we need to be able to power this country. And if we can power this country, then we'll be producing. If we're producing, we'll be exporting. If we're exporting, we'll have a stronger balance of trade situation, and we'll be less dependent on import, and eventually it will have an effect on our foreign exchange.
You did mention how it didn't come as a surprise to you as to how much of investment or investors have been attracted to Transcorp Power in the past 1 week. But let us hear from you. How has been listed on the exchange aligned with Transcorp Power's long-term strategic goals? Because we understand that there are goals and objectives. But how does the listing align with the long-term goals and objectives of Transcorp Power?
Well, the power business is very capital intensive, and we've invested quite a significant amount over the, last couple of years in trying to not only acquire the plant, but to refurbish the plant, and to make sure that it's a top performing, power plant. And I think we have gotten to a stage where we've created a lot of value, and we feel that it is time for Nigerians to, key and buy into that value. And that's why we've gone to the market. And, for Nigerians to key into that value also gives us, the additional capacity to be able to create more value. And I think that is the reason behind, going to the market.
Indeed. You've talked about value, and, further investment in the power sector would definitely catalyze growth, not just in Nigeria, but specifically in the northern region of Nigeria. So what's your message to other northerners who are, maybe, not so sure about whether or not to invest in the power sector?
Well, northerners who are not, I think everybody should, if they have the opportunity, they should invest in the power sector, because that is the future. This is a country that is, is raring to move forward, and it's being held back because of lack of adequate power. If we can power this country, there's going to be tremendous development across board. Because as I said earlier, universities, schools, hospitals, businesses, once you have power, you can operate efficiently, and it becomes the least of your problems, and then you can focus on creating value and development.
Indeed. Let's now talk to, the parent company, that is Transcorp Nigeria. Personally, I, monitored the performance of Transcorp Nigeria towards the end of last year, and it emerged as the best performing, stock for the entire year. And I believe that, we're also seeing this, impact positively on Transcorp Power. But how does being listed on the floor of the exchange now, what impact would they have, especially in the area of, investors who are considering whether or not to be a part of these or not? What would be your message to this group of people, people who are wondering, should I be a part of this or shouldn't I be a part of this? What would that message be?
I think, they should be a part of it, not because I'm part of it, but I think they should be a part of it because Transcorp is a good brand. It's a very, very good brand, and they're run properly. And, they practice, best practices, and they do things according to the book. And they create value most of all, so which means that they invest in developing the businesses, creating value, and then expanding the businesses and adding more value to the system. So anybody who wants to be part of that value creation, I think Transcorp is a company you should, be part of.
Okay, but let's take it back memory lane now. What led Transcorp Power to even pursue listing on the exchange, on the NGX? What led Transcorp Power to pursue that?
Yeah, as I said, when you have a group of investors coming together, they put in their own equity and, bank finance, to, acquire an asset and, create value over the years. You get to a point where you've created a lot of value and you think you want to open it up, to others to come in. For Nigerians to come in and be able to access that value and take advantage of the value that you've created. And it works in a kind of, in a symbiotic manner. They come in and they get value, and from them coming in, you're also able to have more resources to create more value. And so it's a thing that benefits all parties, concerned.
Indeed. I'd like for us to talk specifically around businesses. Nigeria is home to over, 30 million MSMEs, that's micro, small and medium enterprises. And these businesses, need power on a day-to-day to run and to make gains effectively. What impact would you expect for Transcorp Power to have, in the area of trade and commerce, and especially MSMEs generally?
I think right now Transcorp Power, is producing about 7% of the nation's, consumption, and I think we intend to get up to about 25% of the total, nation's consumption. And definitely by making power, available, then you have more development, and more progress. Companies, businesses will be able to have power, at a lesser, much lower, and it's readily available. Powering generators, all the time, is not cheap. Especially if you consider the fact that we import our diesel, which is bought, in foreign exchange, which puts much more pressure, on the Nigerian currency. So at the end of the day, it is going to, help to promote, more business and more development and more value creation, within the system.
Indeed. I mean, emphasis on value creation, like you have rightly stated. We touched on, how investors have reacted to the listing so far. And in my introduction, I said over 835 billion naira just in 1 week. But how would these gains affect the growth of Transcorp Power's trajectory moving forward? I
think this, gain will actually help, rather than, it will help. It will allow the management of the company to have more resources to be able to expand. As I said, power is a very expensive business. We have almost about quite a couple of turbines, in Ughelli Power, in the Transcorp Power Plant in Ughelli. And those power plants are very expensive, not only to buy, but to maintain. They cost over, hundreds of millions of dollars, for just each turbine. So it's a very expensive business, and you also want to be able to expand. So the more we have access to resources, the more we're able to expand. But the most important thing, the fundamental, is the fact that we're creating value for Nigerians, to key into, and Nigerians have seen that value and they're keying into it, and it's a success story.
Indeed. I'm glad to know how much of a success it has been in the past 1 week. But moving forward, let's discuss, let's divert a bit, but issues around power still. There are conversations around, power and the removal of subsidy in the power sector generally, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Linking it to power, to Transcorp Power, moving forward. But let's hear from you. What are your thoughts on the removal of subsidy in the power sector? Lots of conversations going on around that right now. But let's hear from you. You are a key player in the power sector. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a very complicated subject. In the sense that there are a lot of factors that you need to take into consideration when discussing that issue, and even for those who are in positions of authority who need to take decisions on that issue, they need to consider a lot of things. On one hand, the business owners are saying the tariff needs to be cost reflective. I cannot spend 10 naira producing something and you want me to sell it at 8 naira. If I'm making a loss of 2 naira, in 10 years or 3 years or 2 years, I'll be out of business. But the government is also saying, at the same time, we cannot increase, the price of, how much people pay for electricity, because people are already struggling to survive with just general expenses that they, incur every day. So to now add the added cost of power to that again will complicate matters. So it's a very delicate balancing act. On one hand, the businesses are saying, look, we need to be able to recover our funds that we've invested. On the other hand, government is saying, we're also trying to, meet you, but it's not something that we can just, decide on and just take an action on it immediately like that. So it's a very complicated subject. It
is indeed complicated, but what low-hanging fruit solutions would you suggest, to bridge that gap, that power gap we're currently facing?
Well, there's no easy fix, because you want more people to come in and invest in the sector, but at the same time, if the sector isn't attractive and they're not able to recoup their expenditure, then they're not going to want to, come in. And there are other factors that affect the economy or the environment. You've got the security issues, which government is doing a lot to try and curtail, but you've got the security issues, you've got the economic issues, you've got so many issues. So it's a multifaceted issue, but I think as we're progressing and doing the reforms, as this government is doing, carrying out reforms and trying to do things properly, then investors will have the confidence to be able to come in and invest.
Speaking about investors' confidence, like you've rightly stated, all of these things, like you've mentioned, need to be put in place, for investors to be willing to come in. But I'd like for you to speak as to, what investors should expect if or whether or not they decide to, invest specifically now in Transcorp Power. What should they expect moving forward? What's your outlook for Transcorp Power, say, in 1 month?
I think more growth. More growth, definitely more growth, because as I said, it's a very well-run company. It's run properly. The turbines are, serviced properly. The maintenance plan, is talked to, and also you've got proper, accounting systems. The auditors, look at the books. It's a properly run company, and anybody who invests in this company, the only way I see is up. Your investment will definitely increase in value.
Indeed. Yes. So you're calling on more investors, I guess.
Including you.
Including me. You can see I'm dressed as a stockbroker today. Yes, I came prepared for this. So you're calling on more investors.
Yes, I am. To invest in Transcorp Power. You can't lose.
Thank you. I've been speaking with Risqua Muhammed, who is a non-executive director at Transcorp Power, and he has spoken extensively to the gains that Transcorp Power did record last week. Like I said before, gains of 835 billion naira in just 1 week, and of course the outlook for the company moving forward. Thank you again for coming on Business Daily.
Thank you very much.
And all the best with Transcorp Power.
Thank you very much.
This is where we draw the curtains on today's edition of the program Business Daily, coming to you on Trust TV. Join the conversation on social media and let us hear your thoughts on this development. My name is Chiamaka Nendo. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.